Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Multifamily Rockstars. So as you know, this is where we interview people that are crushing it in this business. And we show you guys the inside scoop into how multifamily investors are creating massive success in both their businesses and their lives. Now, as always, I've got my co-host, who's the director of my Massive Action Team for our Warrior Mentorship Program, Mark Nagy, on the call. Mark, what's up, brother?
Hey, Rod, doing really well. Just super excited to jump into another amazing story here. I've been getting so much feedback from these podcasts of just a lot of people hearing from regular everyday people and how they've been crushing it. And, it's a nice, refreshing spin to what we normally do. So I'm loving it.
And I'm loving the hat today, Mark. Okay. He's got a hat on for those of you on iTunes, says Lifetime Cash Flow. So I told him I want to get those hats and sell them at the Orlando Bootcamp coming up in December. And by the way, if you guys haven't heard of that, for God's sakes, get your ticket now. The price is as cheap as it's going to be. Thank God we're going live again. Everybody has just been jonesing to have a live event. It's going to be a big one in Orlando, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And if you want to get tickets, it's rodinorlando.com, or you can text Rod in Orlando to 72345. They're ridiculously reasonable. And if you've never been, it's not a sales pitch. If you're in by big multifamily groups, search the word Bootcamp to see what people think about the events. And I think you'll be, really pleasantly impressed and surprised and realize you need to be there. So it's incredible networking opportunities. I was just on another interview yesterday, and I was talking about the last event we had, live event we had in LA, January 2 years ago. And wow. There was as much going on networking outside the room as there was inside the room. So, it was just incredible. And so it's an incredible networking opportunity besides just a learning opportunity. So anyway, let's get to the show. Today we have Ryan Dworak on the call. And Ryan, I think he's in almost 200 doors, half of that as a limited partner and the other, half as a general partner JV. And I think he's been in the program, our Warrior program, actually for about a year. But welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, grateful to be here. Thanks for having me. Just excited to get into it and see what I can share with you guys.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So why don't you tell a little bit of your story? Just go back and give us a little background on, what you did before real estate briefly, and then why you got into real estate. And if any of the skills you learned prior to getting into real estate have translated into skills in the multifamily space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually had a corporate career for 10 years now in the electric utility industry. So that's kind of my job coming right out of college. Learned a lot in that space, working with teams, just driving results, collaborating with others. Definitely translates well into real estate. Mm-hmm. On top of that, definitely passionate about creating other income streams, other businesses. So, on the side, I've created a small ATM business that I still work on today. And also in the past, I've started a kombucha tea company with my brother back in 2017. And that was a great small business, very unique. We grew that business to be a profitable one, but eventually exited that in 2019.
Is this you with goggles and masks down in your basement?
Not quite.
I'm thinking Breaking Bad here.
Yeah, not quite. There are some funky smells, but that's about it.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Unique business, but again, just another side business and kind of focusing on building up my different income streams. And in parallel, I've always had just a real estate itch. I've been learning about real estate, the ins and outs of it, for probably the last 5 years. And Rod, honestly, you were one of the first that I've listened to as far as podcasts go. So a good 3-4 years listening to your podcast, learning, and then branching out, learning from other sources and people. And, eventually just wanted to take the leap and take some action. It's a strength of mine is not only just learning a bunch of information, but taking the action, implementing, and kind of building confidence in doing that. So I think just through all those experiences, I've realized that you can take action build up your income, and then eventually you want to put it somewhere where, you're going to be able to multiply your wealth and add value to other team members, especially in the real estate space, which I've been learning a lot as well, being a team member. So yeah, eventually that led into me wanting to expand my network. I started out doing real estate basically on my own. I approached a larger 11 unit building right away on my own. Thought I was confident enough to take that down. And I was close, but it didn't happen. There were a few things that came up, and we'll maybe get into that later. But what it led me to was taking a step back. I got a more manageable four unit property that I still manage to this day. And I do everything for that building. And it's just taught me a lot of good lessons, but it also made me realize that I need to level up my game, get around the right people, build my network, and get on a team that supports me and pushes me to learn more in the business. So ultimately in 2020, I joined the Warrior group. And, that was a leap of faith at the time. I knew about it and been kind of just learning more and more about it. Eventually I was like, I got to do this. And I jumped in, and it's honestly been the best thing I've done, to date. So it's been fantastic. And as I'm sure you'll learn here, I've taken some big strides. So
thank you for those kind words, buddy. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And you absolutely have taken massive freaking action. I've got a quick question before I let Mark ask his, and that is, was that fourplex the first deal, or did you start with some single family to get started and break,
the fourplex was the first deal.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. What a great place to start.
It was. And I would recommend, people get into those smaller units and then take on more of the management, experience the leasing side of it, the tenant side of it, the maintenance, the lawn cutting, the snow removal. I mean, everything that goes with it, you learn real quick what you're good at, what you don't really want to be involved in as much, and you start to whittle away at your strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's key, kind of leveling up in this business.
I want to hammer home what Ryan just said, guys. Okay, that is such a great tip. When you can, do it the way he did it, start with a plex, manage it yourself, get your hands dirty, deal with the tenants and the toilets and the maintenance and the remodel and the financing and all the nuances of getting the deal done. It's just such a great foundation to move into the larger deal. So I just want to hammer that home with an exclamation mark.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, Ryan. I mean, what initially was your first pivotal moment here in your multifamily journey?
Yeah, my first pivotal moment, I guess it kind of like I mentioned before, I was learning all the terminology of real estate, especially getting out of the 1 to 4 units and jumping into the 5+ multifamily. I mean, looking at properties from an income approach versus like a sales comp approach, right? You really got to get into the numbers, kind of learn the underwriting, what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. And in doing that, I gained all that knowledge. And then like I said before, I like kind of taking those steps and action. So I found a direct to seller deal off Craigslist, and it was an 11 unit deal comprised of all studios in an okay part of town. And eventually I got it under contract after negotiating with the seller, but there were just a couple missteps that I took. I was using the seller's banker. I was using a real estate attorney that I wasn't familiar with. We weren't using a broker. So there was a lot of things that I kind of stumbled into. And eventually when it came time to, inspect the property and go through those motions, it turns out there was a lot of things that the seller was hiding that were uncovered in the due diligence process. And, eventually we couldn't come to terms on where, credits and pricing needed to fall. So the deal fell apart, but that's kind of the pivotal moment for me, because I stepped back into the smaller unit to get more confidence going forward. So I think going through some of those maybe failures, or Rod, I know you like to call them seminars, and just taking it and learning from it, you just grow so much quicker. You know how to handle things better, and you know who to involve sooner than later. Because I was kind of doing that stuff on the back end, like on the fly. And I think eventually that just more or less got me into trouble with that deal. So definitely a pivotal moment.
I'm going to tell you, buddy, it's probably a godsend, because I will tell you, all studios are tough unless they're large, really nice units. I've had, complexes. I remember a 22 unit in Fort Myers. It was all studios, and it just had such a huge turnover because people ultimately just want more room. In most cases, that's a general statement. These units were really small. I don't know what they were on yours, but
they're small. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a blessing, brother. I will just tell you that right now. So let me ask you this, how did you push through the fear initially? And this probably even predates the Warrior Group, like to take action on that 11 unit. Talk about that for a minute. Talk about, I know there's a lot of listeners listening that haven't taken action yet because of fear or limiting beliefs, or not realizing they need to get uncomfortable to make this happen for themselves. How did you push through all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one, I think I'm realizing more and more as I go on in my journey, the more you put yourself in situations, the more you build your confidence. And sometimes you just think you can't do something, or you just don't have all the pieces put together before you get into that situation. It goes back to, even in my corporate career, taking on bigger challenges, working with different cross-functional groups, and kind of just being more of a critical thinker. And then starting businesses. I mean, going in and cold calling, certain locations for ATMs, or trying to sell beverages at a farmer's market. I mean, you're putting yourself out there all the time. And quite honestly, you're always selling yourself in some fashion. Everybody's selling themselves to somebody for something. And I think just putting yourself in those situations, I would say do it. If you're thinking about it, and if you got like a little bit of a butterfly feeling, you should probably go and do it, because it's never as bad as you think it is. I think we've all experienced that. And I think the more and more you put yourself in those situations and seek out those kind of discomforts, you can push through. And, the other thing is, I was able to save enough money for that 11 unit to go in on my own and try and confidently go in financially. But it was all those other pieces. It's not always about the money, right? So, I think that the team aspect is huge, but
the inspections, the crunching the numbers properly, all of that, the communication and relationships with that new attorney and broker, and being able to vet them properly, and so on and so forth. You said something about that I want to hammer home. Tony Robbins has got a saying that's something goes along the lines of this: that it's the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can live with. So meaning pushing yourself past your comfort zone. And that truly equates when you think back of the most amazing moments in your life, invariably there were times you got outside comfort and pushed yourself. And so that just kind of puts, again, an exclamation mark in a comment that you just made about you doing that. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah. And you don't realize it at the time either. I think you realize it like years after you've been doing all these things. You're like, oh yeah, those 5 experiences that I was thinking about doing and I did actually I'm feel a lot more confident about doing these other things. And somebody else mentioned this, but this kind of sticks with me is, I don't know my potential. So why would I limit myself? And I always kind of think about that every once in a while.
Oh, that's
and it's
good.
it's kind of a powerful statement. And you're like, yeah, why would I limit where I go or who I talk to if I don't truly know my potential? So you're kind of always like striving to get better and better. And
say it one more time. That is such a good one.
If you don't know your potential, why would you limit yourself?
Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, that's a good one.
So after taking some action then, Ryan, and knocking down some smaller stuff there, what ultimately was your thought process that made you decide to get a mentor and join a group then?
Yeah, for me, it was just the realization that the market I was looking in. So I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a decent market. I'll still look here. It's not a cyclical market or anything like that. It's pretty safe market. I just knew that I wanted to experience looking outside your backyard. I've heard a lot of people talk that it's possible and how it can be possible. And obviously it goes back to the team mentality. And I really wanted to experience that. And I knew I needed to just get into a network of people that are doing bigger and better things than I am, but have the same mindset, if not a stronger mindset. So I wanted to surround myself in that ecosystem. And the Warrior program is just a great example of that. I mean, you're injected into that system or that ecosystem, and like immediately you're connecting with people, you're learning about their experiences. Everybody's like super helpful. It's just been amazing. Like,
Awesome.
yeah, just being helpful. And I feel like that's what I needed, was to be engaged with a bigger group of people doing bigger things. And
Well, I know you just aligned with one of the successful warriors in the group, and you kind of joined at the hip. So that's an awesome thing as well. So, what is your definition of success, buddy? When you think about success to you, what does that look like?
Yeah, success to me, I think it's just identifying like a journey you want to be on. For me, it's kind of part of the chase is important to me. It makes me happy that I'm working towards something and I'm making small achievements along the way. My end game is I'd eventually like my time freedom to occur. I'd like to be in a place where, I can have more time with my daughter and my wife, and in the future have that become more available and put in the work today to achieve that. I mean, that's kind of the end goal, but I'm the type of person that I'm always going to be working towards something, and trying to be better and better. So that to me makes me happy. And I'm not the type that's just going to want to say retire and sit back and watch things happen.
We've had warriors that have retired after, 3 years in the program from their jobs, but, and you hear me say grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. But the reality is when you love what you do, why would you stop? I mean, it's just fun,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that kind of makes me happy. At least that's what I've found has made me happy so far. And I'm still like learning what makes me happy. I think I'm very grateful for what I have today and the people that are supporting me and, I'm surrounded by. So I'm ever grateful for that, and just seeking more happiness. And now I'm shifting a little bit in my mind to help other people and add more value to people, because in my short period on this earth, I've realized that I have achieved some things and I can share, quite a bit of things with other people that are striving for that as well.
Mark, I want to add one follow-up on what he just said. I see that what he just said about wanting to help other people time and time and time again in our group, because I seem to attract people that want to make the world a better place and help others. It's just the craziest thing. I don't know how that happens, but it just does. And do you see that as well, Ryan, from others in the group, right? Everybody just wants to pitch in. And
Absolutely.
it's the crazy. I mean, it's amazing. It's astounding to me how prevalent it is in that group. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
No, I see that. You're absolutely right. Like the most successful warriors are the ones that come in and say, how can I give to others and how can I help others? It's not the people that say, oh, what can this group do for me? It's what can I do for this group?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I see that all the time as well. But for you, Ryan, obviously you had the couple of other businesses. What has multifamily given you that those other businesses haven't, that made you decide, hey, I want to leave the tea business and get into multifamily?
Yeah, great question. I think it's very apparent for people that are in the industry of what multifamily can provide. It's just such a strong business in the sense that it can provide you generational wealth. The asset class itself is very stable, and it's tax efficient. I mean, there's all these things that it is as far as like providing like financial support and like I said, generational wealth. So I think just, looking at it from a macro sense, there's such a demand for rentals across the US. And I think going forward in the next 5-10 years, it's going to just keep increasing. And I want to be a part of that. I want to shift, like I said before, income streams is something that I'm passionate about, is building up those income streams, kind of building my capital and then putting it into multifamily, because it's almost like you're for sure going to get there with your financial goals when you're in this asset class. And I think that as more and more people learn about it, they're just amazed by kind of what it can do and how powerful it can be. And they don't really realize that, hey, there's a group of people that own this apartment complex. Like, I always thought this was like a big bank or an institution or something like that. So it's just exciting to talk to people about it. And that's why I chose multifamily. I learned about it early on, and then I just figured out a way to be a part of it. And I think there's more people out there, a lot of people listening to this, that are thinking the same thing. And these are honestly the steps that you should be thinking about taking if you want to be serious about it.
I couldn't agree more. Obviously, I mean, that seems like a self-serving comment, but it's not. I mean, it's the most resilient asset class there is. Within a couple of years of the crash, the rents were higher than they were before the crash. And, the government doesn't help other asset classes survive things like they've helped landlords with rent relief in the billions and billions of dollars, helping tenants. That doesn't happen
absolutely.
in the other asset classes. Let me ask you this. Were there any previous failures that happened or even setbacks that happened initially in this real estate endeavor of yours that may have set you up for future success? Anything come to mind? And there may not be, but if there's any setbacks that you learned from and grew from, I guess maybe there were probably numerous examples in that 11 unit. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to reference that. I'm trying to think of some others. I mean, there were others. Mm-hmm. I think a big part of this journey is, how do I want to say it? Maybe like testing partnerships or testing relationships. Because I want to operate with integrity. I want to be authentic to the people I'm around. And I want to make sure that those people are being the same to me, transparency and doing things on the up and up, quite honestly. And that comes from even like in the ATM business, let's say there can be some shady characters in the ATM business. And
really?
I met a couple, and, I know in real estate that can be the case too, but I'm trying to align myself with people that are acting with integrity. And I think I went through a lot of different relationships or connections where I was testing some people out and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. Not necessarily like really negative, but I think it took me time to go through those steps, those relationships. And maybe that held me back a little bit at first, or I wasn't talking to the right people. But outside of the direct 11 unit example, which was a big one, I think just waiting was maybe one that I wish I would have acted quicker in this space instead of maybe focusing on other.
That answers a question that I ask almost all the time, which is, if you could tell your 18-year-old self, what might you do differently? It's always bigger, faster, right? So it's the same, and I feel the same way. And it took me 2,000 freaking houses to get that memo. So, don't feel bad, but it's really interesting. Even when I was, 23, I think it was, as I read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book by, like everybody did, or a lot of people have. And back then, I was even interested in buying plots of residential land in Arizona. I have some relatives in Arizona, and like it just kind of like shifted my mind. And I was already looking at like investing in some way in real estate in some fashion. And I just didn't act on it. I think I was just too young, too naive. I had a couple people saying like, why would you do that? Or kind of getting my ear about it. And at that time you're thinking, okay, I'm in college. I gotta get a job, kind of go the standard route, which I think is important. And it is a path that is good for people. But at the same time, I knew I was already starting to shift my mindset
from that. So just
I want to expand on something you just said, because guys, you have to be so careful who you allow to influence you. And when you haven't built that confidence up, like your example back then, I've got numerous examples for me personally of things I should have done that turned out to be incredible opportunities that I missed out on. I think most people have the same thing happen, and you just got to be careful who you allow to influence you. And I tell you, that's you have to be so careful to choose a peer group that's excited about your success. I mean, we have that blessing in the warrior group. I will tell you, we don't let everybody in. If I get a hint of narcissism, when you speak to integrity, that's our number one core value at my company. Number one by far. We do what's right, even if it hurts. And so, if I get a hint of that, I don't let them in the group. And there are people we absolutely turn down. And and by the way, if you're interested in the warrior group, text the word crush to 72345, and that's how you apply. Text crush to 72345, and then you have an opportunity to check us out, and vice versa. We have an opportunity to check you out as well to see if it's a fit. And if it is, fantastic. Even if it's not, you'll get a lot of value from the phone call you have with my team, Mark's team. But so be very, very careful to protect your dream, number one. Because when you initially have that dream, it's a fragile thread. It's very easy to break that thread, or people will break it based out of their jealousy or their fears, or their own limiting beliefs, or and so it's so important to be very, very careful with that, with who you share your dreams with.
Especially when you're younger too. I think you're a little more vulnerable as far as trying to figure out what you're excited about, what you want to be doing in the future. You allow external forces to really shape kind of where you're going early on. So what you said, just getting around the right people that are supporting you regardless, is very, very important.
Yeah. Every day there's wins listed in the Warrior Facebook group, but people that have done a deal, got one under contract, and went and met with other warriors, and and that's that support. I don't care if you do it in the warrior group, get into a support system like that, to have these people around you. Go to a local meetup, whatever, and get around people that want more out of life, that aren't afraid of doing more in life. So, it's just such a critical piece.
So Ryan, for this last one for me here, but for people listening that are maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the size of apartment buildings, whether it's the amount of units, the money, whatever, what words of wisdom or message would you give to those people?
Yeah, I mean, foundationally, I would say educate yourself. I think being educated on any topic that you're passionate about or looking to go after, it really helps just speaking with other people on the topic. You kind of break down that first layer just in knowing what you're talking about. So I'd say get educated. Obviously, we all here take action. That's super important. But even before that, there's a saying that I kind of like to go by, and it's the be, do, have instead of have, do, be. And if you flip it, so if you're the be, do, have, it means you start out as being the person that you think you're eventually going to be. So you start out with that thinking, I'm already that person. And then you start doing those things that those people are already doing. And then eventually you'll have those things that those people have. So it's kind of like you're starting out like you're already that person, instead of the flip of that, or the reverse of that, where some people think they have to have it all already before they start doing, and then will eventually become that person. Yeah. So I think it's interesting if you can just flip that and just mentally think, I'm already that person. And since I'm that person and I know these things, I've educated myself, I'm going to start doing them. And eventually down the road, I'll have the things that I think are important coming out of that. So I think it's just powerful to kind of think about it that way. And again, it's more of a mindset shift than anything, but it works.
Yeah,
so
no,
that would be my advice.
Great advice. And I'll spin it a different way. It's really acting as if, and emulating people that are successful in whatever you want to do. It could be relationships, but it doesn't even have to be business, but you act as if you're like they are, and eventually you won't be acting. And you just embody. And I love that. I've never heard that described that way before, but when you own it and operate that way, as if you are already that piece of what it is that you want, ultimately you will be. That's the way this universe, God, whatever you believe, works.
Absolutely. And the other part of that too, I wanted to mention was support is key. I think and I know we've touched on this already, but having people around you that support you and what you're even thinking about doing is just critical. I've got a beautiful wife, Britni, and we've got a 15-month-old daughter, Reese, and we've got another on the way.
Oh, congratulations. I didn't know that, buddy. That's
I
awesome.
probably should have led with that, maybe thinking of do the reverse on that one.
That's awesome.
But so, I mean, having that support at those levels is just critical as far as your confidence and moving forward and still balancing things out, because it's not all about real estate and finances and money. I mean, the relationship side of your life is just invaluable. So having that support from them has just been fantastic. And it's a critical piece, it's a critical piece. And one of the things that I try to do is have people, if they're coming to one of my events, bring the spouse, because, you both go through, the first thing we do is goals. You've got to know what you want and why you want it. You've got to have what Napoleon Hill calls that burning desire. But you got to make sure you're aligned. And so you each do your goals and you compare them and see if you're headed the same direction. Because if not, you're push pull. And, and a lot of times the spouse may have fear that needs to be worked through and explained. And it's just, such a critical component to have that foundational support at home, for sure. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah. And it's almost like full cycle because, Mark, I think I talked to you a year ago prior to joining the Warrior program, and we were having that discussion with my wife because we were expecting our first child. So this was going through our head as like, can we do this now? Can we balance this with what's about to come? And just to see how far we've gone, having that addition in our life has been great to see. And again, it goes back to kind of stepping into those challenges and growing from them. So
getting a little uncomfortable.
That's a case study right there. Yeah.
Getting a little uncomfortable. No, I love that. I love that, man. And please give Britni our congratulations on the new edition coming. That's awesome. Well, listen, brother, thank you. It's been a real treat to see you and get that great news. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little wisdom. And you really had some great nuggets that even enlightened me on a couple of instances that I really appreciate. We've got our Warrior Only event coming up next week. I don't know if you're able to make it, probably not with the baby coming, but You know what? I am super disappointed because we have a family vacation planned. Oh, you do?
This was like the one live event since COVID
it's the first
started
one,
and
right.
I joined. Yeah. And I've been at the boot camps, but I'm not able to make this one, unfortunately. But I think there's another boot camp coming up in December.
Oh yeah, no, December is the live one. That'll be a big one, and there'll be tons of warriors there. But we do Warrior Only events as well, and that's next week. And we do deep dives on deal analysis and area analysis. But you'll get the recordings, so it's all good, buddy. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for coming on, Mark. It's good to see you, bud. And you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345 and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.